Happy Mother's Day. Yay, mothers. Welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Sarah Reiling, one of the worship associates and part of the team that works to bring the worship services to you. We're glad you're with us today, even though some of you are probably home recovering from the Pops concert, right? Whether you're a member or a new visitor, we welcome you. Whether you're here in the sanctuary with us or watching online, hi guys at home, may you find connection with us and nourishment for your mind and spirit. Here at Community UU, we welcome all you are and all you dream of becoming. There's a book in the back between the two cabinets, and you can share something that's on your heart today. Just write it in the book, and later on we'll read it from the book. In this way, your joys, your concerns, your sorrows will be part of the service and part of the prayers and awareness of the congregation. Once again, welcome. Our call to worship today is a responsive call to worship, and you know how we do this. My words are small and yours are big. So here we go. Our Unitarian Universalist faith has grown from seeds planted by our Unitarian and Universalist ancestors. From them, we've inherited a legacy of courage and compassion, finding new ways to live our values. These are the words of Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen. As Unitarian Universalists, our journey is to transform the big and the small, to transform ourselves, and to transform the world. Universalism means no one is outside the circle of love. No one is disposable.
No one is outside the circle of love, and no one is disposable.
We stubbornly seek out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what. Interdependence means none of us is truly free until we are all free, and our thriving is bound up in the earth's thriving.
None of us is truly free until we are all free.
We struggle for liberation from the violence of white supremacy, sexism, ableism, classism, and homophobia. Our covenants mean we make promises to our communities to honor, love, and justice above all else.
We make promises to honor, love, and justice above all else.
And now we're going to share our covenant, once again in a different place than it usually is. This church, like all Unitarian Universalist churches, is not bound by a common creed. We are not required to make a statement of belief. Instead, we are bound together by our covenant, the promises we make to each other and the wider community about how we will be in the world. We recommit ourselves to these sacred promises each time we recite our covenant. Please join me as once again we say these words together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law.
This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
To begin our first story, let's remember one of our beliefs. No one is outside the circle of love, and no one is disposable. In September 1938, Nazi Germany invaded northern Czechoslovakia. Thousands of refugees, Jews and others fearing Nazi occupation, fled south, many ending up in Prague.
In January 1939, the Reverend Waitstill Sharp and his wife Martha could have turned down the request from the American Unitarian Association to leave their children and home and head to Prague to help persecuted people. An isolationist America was not yet at war and was reluctant to open its doors to refugees. 17 others had declined this mission, but the Sharps said yes. Just weeks after their arrival in Czechoslovakia, the couple watched Hitler's troops march into Prague. They were shadowed by Gestapo agents. Their offices were ransacked, and they had to burn files to protect refugees' identities. The young couple narrowly escaped arrest by returning home in August.
So if you can believe, a year later, the Sharps returned to a second mission. They secured a trainload of condensed milk in great demand to feed the refugee babies in southern France. Working with various aid networks, the Sharps rescued an estimated 125 people, Jews, political dissidents, and others under threat as fascist armies spread across Europe. They also helped get food and other assistance to hundreds more in urgent need. I just want to give you a brief aside. Bill and I were able to look at the Unitarian Church in Budapest. We went there and met the minister. And when we walked out of the back of the church, the front was beautiful, the church was beautiful. But when we walked out the back to get in her car, the whole back of the church was pockmarked. And we went, what are all those holes? And she said, that's from World War II, the guns.
Story number 2 is the Chalice. We begin our second story by remembering another one of our beliefs. We make promises to honor love and justice above all else.
By the mid-1940s, the strength of Nazi Germany had grown, taking severe tolls on human life throughout Europe. Not enough was being done to assist the thousands of people attempting to flee the danger of Nazi occupation. Inspired by Reverend Waitstill and Martha Sharp's courageous mission, the Unitarian Service Committee was established in 1940 to continue humanitarian service. Its commissioner was the Reverend Charles Rind Joy.
Lisbon was the only open port in Europe, and millions of refugees were pouring in. From his headquarters in Lisbon, Reverend Joy oversaw a secret network of couriers and agents, helping to provide travel documents that would allow those refugees to escape to freedom. But the Unitarian Service Committee was an unknown organization that put them at a disadvantage. Establishing trust across barriers of language, nationality, and faith could mean life instead of death.
I have to say I love this name. Reverend Joy needed an official symbol for the papers issued by the Service Committee. He wrote, "When a document may keep a man out of jail, give him standing with governments and police, it is important that it look important." He asked Hans Deutsch, an Austrian refugee artist, to create one. The result was essentially the flaming chalice as we know it now. And like our faith itself, the flaming chalice symbol has evolved over time.
The chalice, as a two-dimensional drawing, eventually transformed into the object used in worship. Thanks to our religious exploration programs, curricula in the late 70s encouraged the children to make chalices in different media. Eventually, those chalices morphed into objects that could be lit. The first documented uses of chalices in the main sanctuary are from Sundays on which the children and youth led worship and demonstrated their practice to the adult congregation.
And now it's time to light the chalice. Our chalice lighter today is Jen Mason. And our chalice lighting words are once again from Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity. the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We're not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. We begin our third story by remembering that none of us is truly free until we are all free. In the 1800s, while white Unitarians and Universalists had inconsistent responses to what we now recognize as the evil of slavery, the country's bitter divisions grew when the Fugitive Slave Act was passed in 1850. Some Unitarians and Universalists stayed on the sidelines, while others became avid abolitionists. Unitarian minister Reverend Theodore Parker was an abolitionist, a leading member of the Boston Vigilance Committee, an underground group that helped hundreds of enslaved people find freedom. In 1854, a 19-year-old enslaved person named Anthony Burns, that's his picture right there on the screen, escaped from slavery in Virginia and fled to Boston, where he was arrested and held at the courthouse. A group of 5,000 assembled at Boston's Faneuil Hall, where Theodore Parker told them, "I love peace, but there is a means and there is an end. Liberty is the end, and sometimes peace is not the means toward it." Meanwhile, members of Boston's black community were meeting nearby and rushed to the courthouse in an attempt to rescue Burns. Hundreds of white abolitionists ran from Faneuil Hall to help them. An estimated 2,000 anti-slave protesters mobbed Court Square that Friday night and tried unsuccessfully to free Burns. The United States was built on a legacy of slavery, racism, and oppression that continues to take new, ever-changing forms. Today, 172 years after the Boston slave riot, Unitarian Universalists bear witness to the systematic devaluing of black lives. We commit ourselves to dismantling systems of white supremacy, which is an institutionalized cultural pattern reaching far beyond any single incident or person. As our service continues, we'll respond to some stories by singing, and each time we'll change the pronouns in "there is a love" to remind us how our love is directed within, among, and beyond ourselves. So the words are on the screen, but we're going to have Elena pray it through one time, and then we'll sing it together, right? All right. Story 4 is called The Secret Six. Anyone from Kansas here who has lived in Kansas? All right, you probably know this story then, at least part of it. In the years before Kansas was admitted to statehood in 1861, there was violent conflict about whether slavery would be legal in the new state. John Brown, who had been born in the territory that became Kansas, was fiercely opposed to slavery. He believed that violence was justified in this righteous cause because white people would never willingly, peacefully put an end to slavery. In 1857, and again in 1859, John Brown came to Boston to seek financial support from local abolitionists. His strongest and richest supporters came to be known as the Secret Six. 5 of them were Unitarians. 2, Theodore Parker and Thomas Wentworth Higginson, were Unitarian ministers. The Secret Six helped fund and supply John Brown's 1859 raid at the Federal Armory at Harpers Ferry. In the words of Reverend Carl Gregg, we can see today the ways in which the Secret Six were naive in supporting John Brown's raid at Harpers Ferry. At the same time, the Secret Six did risk their comfort and privilege to support Brown's armed insurrection because they had come to believe that nonviolent legislative means of ending slavery had no chance of succeeding. The historical consensus is that Brown's raid, even though it failed, did catalyze the movement towards civil war. Dismantling oppression is not easy. The systems of white supremacy, sexism, ableism, classism, and homophobia don't want to be changed. They're powerful. They fight back when we attempt to find another way. How far would you go to set people free? It's your question to answer. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition will not provide the answer for you. Instead, Unitarian Universalism asks us to engage your free and responsible search for truth, for meaning, and for justice as we hold the tension between the world as it is and as we wish it to be. Our 5th story, number 5, is the women of the Unitarian Society of New Haven. Some of our stories of Unitarian and Universalist justice makers are about how injustice, the diminishment of a person's dignity, inherent worth, and autonomy impact our most personal choices. We begin our next story by remembering that we make promises to honor love and justice above all else. Unitarian Universalists believe that freedom includes the right to make decisions about our own bodies. We believe that people who can get pregnant always have the right to make decisions about their own reproductive health. In 1879, the state of Connecticut banned the sale and use of birth control. Under this law, which stood for over 80 years, a woman in Connecticut could not legally purchase any form of birth control. In 1961, Estelle Griswold put Connecticut's ban on birth control to the test by opening a birth control clinic in New Haven. This simple act of civil disobedience resulted in the police shutting down the clinic and arresting Estelle Griswold. Deborah Weiner, a UU religious educator, recalls, "My mother was one of the founders of the Unitarian Society of New Haven. She, along with a bunch of activist Unitarian women, were leaders with Planned Parenthood of New Haven. During the time the clinic was closed, the board was determined to continue dispensing birth control. They set up our basement with the windows cardboarded up, typewriters set up, boxes of diaphragms and gel, and birth control pills everywhere. I was warned not to tell anyone what was going on. I was told that it could result in my mom getting arrested, so I kept quiet and the operation continued." When Griswold versus Connecticut ruling came down from the Supreme Court in 1965, there was a huge celebration in New Haven. My mother and her friends, who were almost all UUs, were heroes because they carried on even when the police tried to stop birth control from being available. Our bodies are sacred. No matter how many bodies bear scars from misogyny encoded into law, from violence, from the lack of access to medical care, women's bodies are sacred, and so are the choices offered by reproductive freedom. So once again, our song meditation is on the screen. We're going to sing it. Story 6 is called the Clergy Consultation Service. Unitarian Universalists know that life comes with hard choices, and we believe that pregnant people can be trusted to make hard choices, including the decision to terminate a pregnancy.
Even after the Griswold versus Connecticut ruling in 1965, it was difficult for women to get birth control in many areas of the county and country. It was illegal and often deadly to seek an abortion.
In 1967, an unlikely group formed to help women obtain safe abortions. The Clergy Consultation Service, an underground network of rabbis and ministers, including UU ministers.
The charge for aiding and abetting an illegal abortion was a $1,000 fine and up to a year in prison. But the Clergy Consultation Service operated out in the open, says one minister, sending the message that they were choosing to defy the law in order to adhere to a higher law.
By 1973, roughly 1,400 clergy members across the country had helped hundreds of thousands of women access safe abortions. Having clergy take such risks helped to change social attitudes about abortion. And the case that became Roe v. Wade started right here in Texas, with encouragement from Unitarian Universalists, especially the Women's Alliance of the First Unitarian Church of Dallas.
Today, we affirm this commitment in the words of Reverend Lisa Sargent. The movements for reproductive rights, for gay and lesbian rights, for civil rights, for immigrant rights, for human rights cannot be separated. Each of them is fundamentally about ensuring that every person has control over their own life. Will you again enter into the spirit of meditation as we sing together our response? Our seventh story is AIDS. And it shows us, again, that no one is outside the circle of love and no one is disposable.
In 1982, the CDC created the term AIDS, Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, to describe an infection that was killing people. As the AIDS epidemic grew to claim the lives of tens of thousands each year, it became clear that AIDS was moving with particular vengeance through the gay community. In response from both secular and religious voices was silence or outright condemnation. Many churches refused to hold funerals for gay men, and their own families would turn away from them.
Unitarian Universalism ministers were among the few clergy who entered the pastoral breach, grieving with and tending to the dying. One of them, Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey, recalls,
I conducted the early memorial services with the clear insight that the first victims of a massive shipwreck were just washing ashore, though I couldn't possibly have imagined the magnitude of loss. Time and again we stood facing the ocean and scattered the ashes of our dead into the wind.
Harvey remembers sitting in silence with a dying parishioner. Listen, he said, breaking the silence. In all of this madness, even if it kills every single one of us, and there is no one left to tell their stories, it matters that we love each other well.
We are left to tell the stories. It matters that we continue to love each other well, that we make promises to honor, love, and justice. Please sing again as we remember the love that lives inside each of us and which continues to call to us. In our final story today, we recognize yet again that none of us is truly free until we are all free.
On Sunday, March the 7th, 1965, Alabama state troopers attacked 600 unarmed protesters as they walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge outside Selma in an attack that became known as Bloody Sunday. The following day, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called on clergy across the nation to come to Selma to witness the brutality and to bring national attention to the violence and injustice there. In his call to clergy, Dr. King wrote,
"No American was without responsibility. The people of Selma will struggle on for the soul of the nation, but it is fitting that all America help to bear the burden. I call, therefore, on clergy of all faiths, representative of every part of the country, to join me for a minister's march. In this way, all America will testify to the fact that the struggle in Selma is for the survival of democracy everywhere in our land."
The struggle for the survival of democracy continues today. In January, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known by their acronym ICE, came in force to Minneapolis and St. Paul to conduct sweeping raids on Somali Americans and others. They terrorized the Twin Cities. When faced with nonviolent protesters and observers, they responded with pepper spray, tear gas, and bullets. Renee Good, a beloved community member and mother, was murdered by ICE agents as she followed directions to leave an area where ICE was operating. Just a little over 2 weeks later, Alex Pretty, an intensive care nurse for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, was shot and killed by Border Patrol agents while trying to help a woman to her feet. In response to escalating violence, faith leaders were once again called to witness.
In 1965, clergy responded to Dr. King's call. Today, clergy are again responding to the call. UU ministers and other religious leaders from across the country came to Minneapolis to bear witness to the ongoing injustice. As Side with Love writes,
Our faith calls us to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, to side with love, and to work for justice. We go to Minneapolis because when our neighbors are under siege, when mothers are dying from fear in their own homes, living our principles demands that we show up. We go to bear witness, to use our bodies and our covenant to say, not here, not in our name.
Not all of us could go to Minneapolis to witness, but our response to all injustice must be as a community, not as individuals. No one of us is powerful enough to fight the oppression we are experiencing, but together we can respond powerfully, some of us witnessing in person, others supporting at a distance, all of us answering the call. Reverend Ali Casey Bell offers this prayer: Spirit of love and justice, because we know these two must be held together if we are going to get where we are going. Be with us now in a time when so much is changing, unimaginable, horrific, multiplying by the day. Give us the strength not to turn our heads, but to lift our voices, our bodies, our very selves, to keep bending the moral arc towards thriving, toward equity, toward care for all. Help us examine and act on what we are learning, not only about the world, but about ourselves, about how we shape, echo, and amplify the noise of division. Turn our voices, turn our habits, turn our silence until what once divided us becomes a song of resistance. Settle us out of our minds and into our hearts so that we may release whatever keeps us disconnected from one another. We cry out, how long? And we answer back, now, and in the past and into the future, because justice does not take a break from tyranny. Fascism cannot change the face of compassion. Equity will not surrender to the false comfort of the inequitable. Let us remember that hope has feathers, that it takes wing, not because it is naive, but because it is present, active, and alive. And let us rest not in complacency, but in truth. We are survivors, we are thrivers, and we will not stop until our work is done. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be. So as I was telling you, things are different in this service, so we're not using our regular chalice extinguishing that we always use. So we're using this one, and your words are the big ones, and mine are the little ones. Once again, these are the words of Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen. Unitarian Universalism is for those who have seen the arc bend towards justice and for those that doubt it will ever bend, but know we must organize as if our lives depend on it anyway. Some theologies say that only some people are saved. From those theologies flows a world where people are criminalized for their identities, for being Muslim, transgender, Black, undocumented.
Our theology says that we are all saved, and salvation is what we strive to build now for each other.
So we resist any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity. We know that now on earth is our chance to create heaven. We know that love crosses borders and prison walls, lives in queer families and disability justice organizers, thrives among trans young people and working class elders.
We extinguish the chalice with gratitude for our roots, the ancestors who taught us to be brave in creating a fair and loving world. The flame is now ours, as is their work. We sigh with love, we work for justice, and we carry the flame forward.
Thank you, Jen. Our benediction today is by Birch Q. Take this as an invitation to imagine how wide this world could be, to face the closing doors before us and move toward the opening windows in our lives. Take this as an invitation to remember a critical truth that none of us have it all figured out, that we can help one another grow and change. Take this as an invitation to cross the thresholds of challenge, not on our own, not for ourselves alone, but side by side, spirits rising and expanding together. Let us go now to share our gifts and the truths with each other and the world.